Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all for coming. Hi, Pat. How are you, my friend? Muted, muted, muted.
We can't
Damn
have good
it.
openings.
Damn it. We were so close. We did it last week. We had a smooth
This
opening
whole
last
bad
week.
opening thing is just a shtick to kill time till we have viewers. I mean, normally, if I wanted to, this could be the smoothest
You know
sailing
how to
intro.
push
Come
all
on.
the buttons. I gotta give a very special welcome to our friend Saul. Not
Saul.
permanently banned. Welcome back, friend. I am so sorry about what happened last week. Totally unintentional. We've got Adria
And Saul,
saying
your shot glass is in the mail. It's on the way. Sorry.
it's on those. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. All right. Moscow Mule time. Love it, Adria. Hi, Mary. It's good to see everybody. Deborah, welcome back. Saul. Kim says, being Canadian working remotely for an American company, got July 4th off. All right.
There you
Well,
go.
that's something. Dave, hello. All right, we have Doggy here. We got Daggy. Sorry, my eyes. I am in extreme pain, and I think it's carpal tunnel or something, but it's like shooting all up my neck and my arm, and I've now had 2 really quick drinks and a lot of painkillers. So I'm hoping it all kicks in soon, but it's making me a little loopy.
Cocaine. She had cocaine.
Yeah. It's look for me in the White House free salt. That's so funny. How are you? How was your week? Tell us something about what you've been up to, Pat.
I have been tinkering with adopting a cat. That's all I got. My parents had a litter of cats in their backyard that they found. And I was over, they had a party outdoors at their house, and I looked under a bush, and hey, there's three more cats under the bush. So they have 2 sets of teenagers and toddlers in their house, and I'm like, I'll take one off your hands. And so there's
And
that.
when do you get it? Do you have the little one already?
No, I'm probably waiting another week. I think they're, by my estimate, they're about 9 weeks old, which is kind of about, you don't want to spay them before they're 2 pounds, from what I've read.
Right.
So that's kind of the game plan. It's like this weekend, probably.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Do you have a name picked out?
I unless I get a better name, and someone should talk me down from this, but it's a white cat that has this little calico stripe on his head. So I've been calling it Splotch, and
That's cute. I like it.
kind of stuck, but I don't know. You got to think, do you want to go outside and yell Splotch, Splotch? Like,
yeah, I think you do.
Although he's going to be an indoor cat, but
right.
she.
Oh, good. She.
Well, I think most calicos, like something like 90+% are.
I think I heard that too. Yeah. Well, that's fun. That's exciting. And how's Pablo going to deal with that? Okay.
He's probably going to hate it. I mean, I have fresh wounds from Pablo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's a psychotic outdoor alley cat I took in.
Yeah.
I literally look like tiger scars across my belly from the cat scratching me. Like,
that's crazy.
Like almost 2 years ago, he scratched me, and I got scars from it still.
I'm sorry. And yet you're wading back in.
How is your week?
Well, I mean, it was a really nice week, but I did very little, which was also really nice, except for really exacerbate whatever's happening with my children and everything. So yeah, it was just family. I had my 2 boys home, my husband, so we just kind of hung out, which was really nice. And yeah, that's it. I saw a movie that was awesome. You Hurt My Feelings. I loved it. I highly, highly recommend it. With Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Is it a chick flick? Is it a love story, rom-com?
No, my husband liked to do. No, it's more, I mean, yeah, probably sort of, but it's not really rom-com. It's more like relationship stuff. I don't know. I loved it. I thought the writing was really smart, and it hit me in all the right places.
Sounds awful. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. But also, I just did want to say The Bear, which I'm really enjoying.
The Bear. Oh, the about the restaurant workers,
I
the
really,
back room.
yeah.
I
There's a
haven't
bunch
seen that yet.
but now I'm honestly, my mind is such a mush. It's a splotch. It's a splotch. We have so much to talk about. We're waiting for Shahid to show up. He should be on his way. And just because we might not get to this one little part, I just wanted to say I thought it was really interesting. So if you've been following the UPS stuff, um, they are coming. Yeah, I've heard that's really good. Don't make me suspend you again. No, I'm kidding. We The UPS stuff. So Sean O'Brien is so militant and strong and is not backing down, and he's rallying his 340,000 workers. They are ready to strike, and it's just really exciting to watch it in spite of all the corporate media narrative about how we have to avert the strike and it's going to be so bad for the economy, which is just business, like the businesses. That's all. It's not really going to affect us. And of course they never talk about how if they strike and get raises and get mostly what they want is better working conditions, that helps everybody, right? Like trickle down doesn't work at all. It's always bottom up. So that, yeah.
Well, and why can't the media frame it like, if UPS doesn't agree to these demands, the economy will come to a stop? Like you just
Exactly.
you blame for it. If UPS doesn't treat its
100%.
workers better, look at what could happen.
Exactly.
And then all the pressure would be on them and not UPS.
Yeah, these greedy CEOs who have like doubled their profits over, COVID, refuse to allow their workers to like get, overtime or schedules ahead of time or air conditioning in their trucks. They actually remove air conditioning from the trucks. It's so disgusting. But anyway, so he's great. That, the Teamsters seem to be rallying the troops. The juxtaposition of that is, for SAG-AFTRA, which our contract just was up June 30th, and there was an election, I think it was last year, and it was basically the two wings. It's like, the two wings of the Democratic Party. It was the Fran Drescher, which is like the Hillary corporate wing, and Matthew Modine, who's more left. And of course she won. And she's, always wants to get in there and discuss and talk with the bosses, not necessarily representing the actors. And so she said that they were waiting. They did not walk away from the table, even though they couldn't come to an agreement on June 30th. She prolonged it and has now gotten a letter signed by, I think it's up to 1,000 now, but when it was first reported on 300 major stars saying, you have got to hold out for what we all need. And, those people, the stars, they don't need any of that, honestly. But most SAG actors are people you've never heard of, right? They're just lucky if they make, honestly, $10,000 a year. You can work really hard and go to many auditions a week and be lucky to make $10,000, which will get you health insurance. So they really are, as much as like I can get right in there and deride the Hollywood elite and all that kind of stuff. I was really happy to see some of the biggest stars in the world sign on and tell her to hold the line. So we'll see. We will see.
I mean, that reminds me of when you said, two whatever of the same, I don't know,
two wings of the same, phrase. Yeah.
Nina Turner had the best line on that one. Two cheeks of the same ass.
Yeah.
That's how she referred to the Democratic Party and the Republicans.
Yeah. Although, so yes, but Matthew Modine would be more like, like the Bernie wing of the Democrats, and she's more like the Hillary wing, kind of. But yeah, I mean, yes, exactly.
So there's a sexy ass cheek. I don't know what to do with this, but
yes, I have gotten many of those, and even for fewer than 12 cents. And as I've produced a couple of very small independent movies, and contracting with a payroll company, it costs about $15 per check that they write. So those 12-cent checks cost them, it's crazy. So you always gotta cash those 12-cent checks just to rub it in. Well, I don't know. Why don't we? Do you think we should just kind of start, because we got a lot to get to, and when Shahid gets here, we can bring him on and just. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can do a timeline cleanse.
You want to do that? Just
Start with
right
that.
there.
And if he's not there, we just go to the wheel.
All right.
What do you think?
All right. Whatever you want. You want to put it on?
Let's do the climate one, because it's sort of informational-ish.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
It's a commercial from Exxon. I apologize. Here we go.
Look at all these lovely things I see. Makes me want to burst in melody. Listen to those engines burning fossil fuel, surging with delicious energy. Birds and frogs and fish better scurry when they go extinct in a hurry. When they go extinct in a hurry, 'cause we just can't stop. You like lobster?
Love that crustacean.
Gone from ocean acidification. No more beans from the coffee plantation.
Just can't grow a crop. The monarch butterfly you'll kiss goodbye.
The polar bears toodaloo. Giraffes and rhinos and tigers.
But you can still see another zoo.
Arctic's melting sounds quite alarming, cranking up the whole global warming. We knew this would happen in life.
Ain't it charming?
So go call a cop. Yes, it's chilling how we're drilling, and we just will not stop. Hey, it's hot and keeps getting hotter. Whoops, now Florida's half underwater. You'll just prance like lambs to the slaughter, 'cause we just can't stop.
We paid our scientists to stifle your fears while we altered the earth forever.
Deny the threat for the last 50 years. Hope you don't notice the weather.
We knew exactly what we were doing. The human race is what we were screwing. Your children's future we're barbecuing. Here it is and pop.
'Cause we're burning all the carbon and we just cannot stop. Don't tell me that all hope is fading. All this talk of doom is so grating. We'll make billions as long as we're waiting for the shoe to drop. 'Cause we're burning all the carbon and we just cannot.
I would stop it, but I feel like the credits, they did some work on that one. So.
All right, that was pretty good. That was shared by David Sirota at The Lever, but I don't know who put it together. I mean, I know that was all there, but I thought that was pretty clever. I know, it's terrible, especially as somebody who's like, that's my business, and to walk away from the credits.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? Like, all of our media is set up now to where even Netflix is like, skip the credits. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's terrible.
You should. I mean, we all do it, but
yeah,
like
that's the one thing that the whole Marvel thing did well, is that they force you to sit through the credits to see those little things at the end.
They call Easter egg at the end.
Easter egg at the end. Yeah. I know, it's funny when so I'm stalling now because we see Shahid is here, but he's just putting it all together. So it's going to be a second before we put him on. When I want to watch old movies with my kids, and the introductory credits on older movies can go on for like 4 or 5 minutes. It was a whole art form, which I love, but now everything's like cold open, it's like smack right into the action. So I'm always worried I'm going to lose their attention.
I don't even have the attention span to watch the intros, the really cool intros like Game of Thrones, how it's got an elaborate intro. I'll watch it once so I get the feel for what the creators are trying to tell you, but then I'll never watch it again.
Yeah, no, definitely skip intro. And that moment, if you miss the skip intro, and you come too late and you have to sit through it. It's like, oh, forget it now, forget it. All right. Well, we are very excited to bring back, I think this is the 3rd or 4th time, Shahid. Is that right, that you've been on our show? It's so nice to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you too. I mean, my career has ended and I'm in a different place than I had been the previous time we've spoken. But, you know, as a kayak guide and a snowboard instructor, if my perspective and background can be helpful to inform anybody, I'm happy to share it.
Nice. Those are two of my.
Doing?
Oh, go ahead.
Are you doing any of that? Any fun extreme sports over there?
Yeah, that's how I make my money. I work as a kayak guide and a snowboard instructor now, a DJ as well. And I would have loved to have been helpful in other ways, but like I said, I'm in a different place. You asked me how I'm doing. I'm just trying to give you a real answer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's all. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry. Is there a delay? There might be a delay.
We're talking over each other. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say I personally love kayaking. My thesis project is a portable kayak, for example, and I lived in Tahoe snowboarding for years, so we're on the same wavelength with a lot of that stuff. Except in the whitest guy on earth, I'm not going to DJ.
You should come visit me in your old haunt. It sounds like I'm just a few years behind you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think we're all really sad that you weren't able to knock Pelosi off her throne up there in San Francisco. Your voice is much needed, but luckily we're excited to talk to you about your article and your thoughts on running third party. You know, I think for a lot of us, when Marianne Williamson, and, you know, we haven't endorsed anybody officially on this show, not that would matter one way or the other, but when Marianne Williamson threw her hat in, I think, you know, I was really happy to see that Biden was going to be getting a challenger, anybody, honestly, just to open that up for discussion and not just coronate the sitting president who's wildly unpopular. But the fear was, as somebody who has even less of the grassroots support and movement behind her than Bernie did, I was really concerned with what would happen when they denied her, you know, a voice, or when she clearly wasn't going to take the nomination. Would she then just bow out and say, and now I endorse Biden? And that just felt really sad to me and not like something I could endorse. So then when Cornel West came out, I think that kind of infused a lot of us with a bit of hope. What's your feeling about him running right now?
Yeah, I mean, Cornel West is better poised than anybody in several generations to expose the fraud of the Democratic Party. Sorry for the background noise. I can't control it. Yeah, I think Dr. West could do a lot to expose a great deal of the hypocrisy and the sham that passes for democracy in America, particularly its militarism and the reliance on racism of both of the major corporate political parties. Because he's running as a third-party candidate, openly hostile to the Pentagon, openly hostile to Wall Street, openly hostile to the corporate duopoly that governs both parties, and because he is, frankly, the foremost sort of multidisciplinary intellectual in the United States at the moment, I do think that he's in a better position than anybody, I think, since perhaps Reverend Jesse Jackson, to expose it. Now, he and Jackson took very different tracks. Jesse Jackson obviously ran as a Democrat and did not run through the convention as Cornel West has already promised to do. But the depth of his insight, the imagery of his poetry, the power of his prose, he is unparalleled. He's a peerless visionary. And, there are a great many people in this country who I think wish they had his insight. I think he stands alone in a category unto himself. And I think that, Biden and the Democrats are going to do everything they can to duck a debate. I expect him to be smeared in ways similar that I was. I expect him to be in a different position in terms of responding to it, because he's both in a different demographic place, and because I think that the reliance of Democrats, particularly on the Black vote, requires them effectively to engage him in a way that other candidates are not able to insist. Yeah. And so, he's one of a kind, and I'm really eager to see him in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty amazing. It's interesting that he has been allowed to come on to corporate media. I mean, I don't really watch it, but I'll see clips from it that they have been having him on. I thought they were just going to pretend he didn't exist, actually.
And I expect that as the campaign season progresses, they will do everything they can to do exactly that. I mean, to the extent he's had opportunities to share his voice with the American public, it's very much in spite of the corporate media, in spite of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And there are cracks in the armor. The opportunities he's had to share his voice, I think, indicate that. And I hope to see them widen. I do think that the Democrats, Biden, all of the forces surrounding it, from Wall Street to the Pentagon to the national security industrial surveillance complex, I think there's going to be a lot of headwinds in his direction. And I think particularly about Operation Mockingbird here, a lot of Americans pretend that our media landscape has some degree of legitimacy, particularly based on the theory of the First Amendment, right? We have a theoretically free press. And so people think that means that what they get from news has some basis in fact. And, you know, we've seen, unfortunately, that the media in the United States is as state controlled as the media in any other country. And any number of instances prove the point, from the parroting of lies that led our nation to every single one of the wars in the last 3 generations, were based on public lies reiterated by major media sources. You know, people have seen a great deal of misinformation and active disinformation emerge in other contexts as well, from public health to Biden's family and its history of corruption. And I do think that to some extent the jig is up. More and more Americans, I think, are tuning out of corporate news, and they are seeking information through their own channels like yours, channels like other podcasters. You know, I'm thinking about a particular one whose audience, from what I understand, dwarfs that of CNN. You know, and to the extent we are living in an age of fractured information sources, we do, I think, have some basis for hope that he and his supporters, Cornel West, and those of us who favor a humane, peaceful policy paradigm, might find through the innumerable channels available to us, again, your show, any number of other voices like yours that are helping inform and educate and inspire an otherwise ignorant, complacent, and complicit public. I hope through those channels that he can break through. Ultimately, at the end of the day, media plays a very forceful role in elections, but at the end of the day, it's how many people reach out to how many of their friends on behalf of him and the vision that he represents that will turn whether or not we're going to be living in an age of continuing climate catastrophe and dystopia, or whether or not we might actually see a reformation of the United States that would place our nation's founding values, you know, the ones that at least we put on paper, before the sordid continuing corruption that is, you know, driving humanity off a cliff.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Well, so I think there's a lot of value in him running, you know, even if he doesn't win. Let's be honest. So he can change the narrative without getting 5% of the vote. I mean, as long as he's allowed to have any sort of footprint on the media, you can see the contrast between what he's going to be saying, and especially Biden, when Biden taxed right once the primaries are over, he's going to be even more centrist, and it's going to be clear to most people that we aren't represented by anybody.
Right.
And so he's going to be that person. And, you know, what's the effect of that? Do you push the Democratic Party left? You push what they say left, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know, we need something beyond electoral politics ultimately to change things. And,
well,
you know, go ahead.
I agree on both of those fronts. I mean, I can relate to this very specifically. When I ran in 2020, I forced Pelosi to change her position on half a dozen issues. And as soon as I was neutralized, you know, after my character assassination, she immediately flipped back and sold out labor. You know, she sold out the racial justice movement. She sold out each of the movements that she theatrically accommodated in the face of a threat. And you're right to suppose and anticipate that Biden will do a similar thing. You know, throw up a bunch of chaff, speak a bunch of hot air, make up a bunch of words that have no relationship to his actual policy commitments in order to mollify the people on whom he relies for support. And you're absolutely right that those theatrical commitments are entirely unreliable. And you're also right that we need something beyond electoral politics. I think that Cornel West embodies them both. You know, one of the things I particularly appreciate about him is that he is a philosopher who speaks in poetry, and he literally embodies jazz, right? I mean, he is improvisational. He is poetic. He pulls from multiple different strands. Like, listening to him is like listening to music. And I think that because he is a different sort of voice, he's not a stuffed shirt. He, doesn't walk around in power suits. He hasn't spent a career in Washington. He spent a career among the people, and translating the rarefied voice of the academy, or better yet, infiltrating the academy on behalf of people writ large. And I think that his voice, I hope, can inspire not only people to participate in electoral politics, but because of his theory of change and because of his running outside the corporate duopoly, I hope that he can help remind people what democracy means. And it is more than casting a vote every 4 years. It is very much about educating your neighbors, grassroots organizing. It is very much about challenging power at the point of intervention in our communities, in the media, in the electoral sphere, and in each of the potential creative ways that we each can. And his creativity combined with his intellect and his analysis, his critique and his policy prescriptions, I think that might, along with all of the things that it's going to beget and inspire, I hope will help us. Another way I'd put this is that he represents not just a political voice, but a constitutional one. Political voices are ones that contend for seats. They seek opportunities to make policy. Constitutional voices are ones that get at the root, the balance of power between government and people, the balance of power among the branches and between the federal, state, and local level. He is he is an open revolutionary. And to have a revolutionary contending for the presidency has a constitutional dimension that I don't think many people appreciate. We live in an era where most Americans are so ignorant of the Constitution. We just celebrated a national holiday, or at least a lot of people celebrated a national holiday geared around a set of principles that most Americans have no awareness of and no consciousness of. And, I'm thinking of this through the lens of the oath of office and the number of corporate politicians who swear an oath to a set of principles that they don't even understand enough to stand up for. And, he's someone who not only understands those principles, but he understands how they came to be. And not through the lens of the founding fathers, but through the very insightful perspective of Frederick Douglass. And I see Cornel West as almost like a contemporary embodiment of Frederick Douglass's voice and legacy. And there hasn't been, frankly, anybody like that in American politics, to be fair, ever. I mean, you might say Henry Wallace in 1944. To put Jesse Jackson in that position, when I compared them before, frankly, is very charitable to Reverend Jackson. I don't know if America has ever seen a voice like Cornel West's attempting to do what he's doing. And, when you said before, Lila, you reflected on, the results of my campaign. I don't take the success or failures of voices in the public as a reflection of the temerity of those voices. Ultimately, San Francisco wasn't able to stand up for its own values when given the opportunity. And that's a failure of my former neighbors. And ultimately, I think Dr. West's candidacy is a test of America. Are we American or not? And I do fear that we have been so brainwashed by corporate propaganda over the last several generations that Americans have forgotten who they are. And they've forgotten what this country is supposed to represent. It went from being about democracy and human rights to being about consumption and militarism. And that's exactly the paradigm that he centrally challenges in no uncertain terms. And, ultimately, this is a test for we the American people. Are we, in fact, the people that claimed freedom, or are we the inheritors of that legacy, or have we chosen to discard it? And we've done everything we can to discard it in the last several generations. And I think that the voice that he represents, the opportunity that he represents, is one that is up to us, whether we're able to embrace it or not.
Well, I certainly hope that we are able to embrace it. The things, as we all know, Biden should never have become president in the first place. He was doddering, and his policies
still is.
I think,
still doddering.
Indistinguishable from George W. Bush. He's, continuing or doubling down on so many of Trump's policies. And and then there's also his mental acuity. So this is interesting to me. A third of Democrats say that they won't vote for Joe Biden, in the primaries, but still that will severely weaken him going into the general. The fact that he's, that he's going to make South Carolina first, and there's a chance. So he's not going to be on the New Hampshire ballot for the primaries, or also maybe Nevada. Am I wrong about that? Or Nevada, sorry. But like that's going to be embarrassing for the sitting president not to win the first primary. It's going to be, there are things that will be chipping away at the, that coronation that they are trying to get away with again. And I think, unfortunately, as we all know, they would much rather lose to Trump than win with Dr. Cornel West.
There's no
so
question.
They'll make that happen. Yeah.
They'll do everything they can. And the question is, will we, the American people, stand up enough to force the alternate path?
I really hope. And I so hope that the ground game is strong. I do think that Bernie's ground game was strong in 2020. I'm curious to know what the plan, and of course they won't let us know, but what the plan is for, as they're talking about Biden right now, possibly losing the first two primaries because his name won't even be on the ballot, and how that will change the momentum, even though he's the sitting president. I'm reminded of how Bernie won the first three, and that was the whole thing, right? And then he lost South Carolina, which is a deeply red state where no Democrat's going to win anyway. And 3 days later, won the biggest state in the country, the most diverse state in the country, the fifth largest economy in the world. And that nobody mentioned that. They just focused on South Carolina. So we know that corporate media can do their tricks. And I'm curious to know what the plan is for when they do that to Cornel West, because that is a hard mountain to climb.
No, indeed. Remember, media coronated George W. Bush too, right? And then in a moment of a contested election, Fox News declared the presidency, and then the Supreme Court effectively ratified it. And when you say, what is the plan? I don't know if anyone is in a position to plan that. I mean, the Green Party and the People's Party, the parties that he's running to represent, they're not in a position to frankly plan for that. That's why I'm saying he presents a constitutional dimension. With all respect, I think you're evaluating it through a political lens. And what I mean to suggest is by exposing the fraud of the entire apparatus, from the corporate media to a presidential primary that's going to lack debates, to an electoral system that, let's just be frank, since Citizens United, there's no plausible claim that America in any way embodies a democracy. We let capitalism eat democracy in open, unapologetically in 2010, when the Supreme Court said that corporations and rich people are allowed to buy elections as a constitutional right. And that basically exposes the farce, but I don't think enough people were paying attention at the time. I do think that this kind of challenge, where you have, a unrepentant fascist on one hand, and then a
pretty much both hands. Pretty much both hands are unrepentant fascists. Yeah.
Well, and it's when you compared Biden and Bush before, Biden I think arguably stands to George Bush's right. I mean, it wasn't George Bush who caused the student debt crisis. It wasn't George Bush, at least Jr., who put Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. And people have learned all the
the crime bill, the mass incarceration.
Right. I mean, Joe Biden is singularly responsible for more of the evils that have emanated from Washington in the last generation, the last 2-3 generations, than anyone in the time before. Well, at least in the time since. I think some figures before could lay claim to the agency. But at the end of the day, the question is up to us. And I do think if Americans force a reckoning, and that again, this gets back to Pat's point, it can't just be voting, right? For a long time, I think many of us in the, whatever passes for the left in this country have favored something along the lines of a general strike. And we've seen organized labor get co-opted by Democrats. So like organized labor is equally neutralized and co-opted and complicit. And so I'm reminded of mass movements that have forced national reckonings at different periods in time. We had one in 2020. The Occupy movement in 2010 could have been that. And I do think for Cornel West to not just win the presidency, but ultimately for his voice to have the effect on our political and constitutional system that it could, it's going to require a great deal of action by many, many millions of people related to, but also well beyond the presidential election. The student debt crisis comes to mind. There's an opportunity for collective action there. If all of the people who owed student debt just refuse to pay, like that's the kind of collective action that can have impact. If a bunch of Americans, like a substantial majority of us, just refused to go to work, That's the kind of thing that could grind the gears to a
Right.
halt. If
Right.
200,000 people showed up on the steps of the Pentagon or the White House, you know, it might frankly prompt a violent response, but it also is the kind of thing that could expose a great many things. You know, one pathway here is, you know, we know, for instance, based on the recent discussion about the debt ceiling and de-dollarization around the world, if the rest of the world recognizes that the United States is unstable, which we, the people of the United States, can force, that can
Right.
ensure a flight of capital out of this country. A flight of capital out of this country will
Wake some
force the
people up.
hand.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and this presents a really sharp question for us as a people. Are we more committed to ourselves and our futures, or are we more committed to our comfort? And, you know, Dr. King observed this in another era when he spoke about the white moderate in his letter from a Birmingham jail. Too many people are complacent because they are primarily committed to their comforts, not their stated principles. And just like any other moment in the past, these future moments present us opportunities to flip that script. And if enough people dedicate themselves to principles, even at the potential cost of our comforts, we could find our way to a very different paradigm, one that might center human rights before corporate greed, one that might center environmental sustainability before hurling yet more public subsidies at fossil fuel companies, one that might center an opportunity for people of all walks and races and backgrounds to live and thrive and survive in a secure, peaceful place instead of being preyed upon by our supposed public servants. These are the questions that at the end of the day are up to, we think they're up to voices that we watch, but they're not up to voices that we're watched. They're up to us. And the question is, can enough of us do enough things to stand up to force a system that refuses to acknowledge its corruption to heed we, the people of the United States? I mean, in some respects, what I'm talking about here is almost like another American Revolution. We've had several. Like there was the revolution in 1776 when FDR won the White House in another era before the Second World War, in the Great Depression. That was a constitutional coup, effectively, right? The creation of the New Deal, the emergence of the administrative state. This was a moment of profound reformation. And I think that, the question is, can we do it again? We've done it not just once before. The end of slavery, similarly, or at least the end of chattel slavery. Slavery, of course, persists in the United States, has only grown worse in the years since the Civil War. And even that, let's just think about that for a second. It's June 5th, right? In the last month, we celebrated Juneteenth, and thank you, and July 5th, and July 4th. And each of these holidays, Juneteenth being the most recent one to be recognized as a federal holiday, July 4th is the very first one to be recognized as a federal holiday, and both of them are based entirely on lies, right? Independence Day might have been independence from the British Crown, but it just became a different kind of slavery. And after the Civil War, slavery only grew and became multiracialized in our nation's prisons. And I think that Cornel West is the kind of voice that can educate Americans about these objects of complete, widespread, pervasive ignorance. And the question is, can an ignorant people be taught what it means to care about themselves and what it means to stand up for themselves? And I do think precisely because Dr. West remixes politics, a moral philosophy grounded in a timeless vision, poetry, prose, music, and even spirituality, I think that he's the kind of voice who can break through our calluses. He can break through our deference. He can break through our ignorance, our sleepwalking. And I do think that the kind of inspiration that he could offer, if it finds root in the hearts of Americans and they find some way to take action on that, I do think, I hope, rather than think, that we, the people of the United States, might prove up to the task of living up to the legacy we were given.
Amen. I certainly hope so.
I just want to say, for me, the hope with West, and I do think this is going to play out, is that unlike Bernie, when Bernie lost, he basically took the spotlight off of the criticisms of the Democratic Party in a large way.
Right.
And I would hope that if West doesn't end up winning the presidency, he still remains a critical voice, and he has more room outside of electoral politics to be a leader in that area. And I'm not saying we need a leader, but if he gets all this attention and keeps that attention focused and focuses people on and because he's a moral authority in a sense, he has the power to get people worked up and focused. And if he does that after the electoral run, that's a tremendous thing that Bernie was not able to do. Bernie still has his issues where he can do that, but he can't say, hey, we should all have a general strike. He's never going to do that as the leader of the Senate,
People forget that, Bernie's been a senator in the Democratic Party for half a century. Right? That's a long time to be committed to an establishment. And in some respects, it says a great deal about him that he was willing to run so openly against it in 2016 and 2020, though ultimately when the cards were on the table and push came to shove, he, right, as you described, reinforced the system rather than going to the mat. And, there's lots of things we could say about that. I particularly blame his staff. Political campaign staff are sort of
that's their own ecosystem, right? Yeah.
They have their own interests. And Bernie staff, when all of us were chanting "Not me, us," they thought that the us was them. And one of the things that a lot of them said to Bernie after the sort of 11th hour, chicanery when Buttigieg and Klobuchar and they all, all of them teamed up to resign at the same moment and endorse Biden. One of the things I think Bernie heard were messages from his staff saying, "Okay, you always said not me, us. You're not going to win the nomination, but if you resign and back Biden, we can get jobs in his administration and we can push Biden to the left." And, a lot of people tried that. It was farcically ridiculous from the outset. I remember the wave of articles that came out early in the administration talking about Biden as the most supposedly progressive presidency ever, which was just
still trying that
horseshit from the outset. I mean, it's Jesus Christ. It's such mania and idiocy. But I would note here particularly the corruption of the professional political class on all sides of the political fences. Anybody making money from politics is problematic ultimately. And when I look at, Cornel West's, to pick up where Pat left off, his willingness to continue through the convention and beyond it, there's no question in my mind that he's going to be willing to remain a force of reckoning, whatever the outcome of the election, if only because he's always been vocal for decades and he's never played along. Right.
I mean, look how outspoken he was about Barack Obama at a time where it was like sacrilege to speak out against Barack Obama, right?
I fought Obama from the left. When I was in Washington, I was running a nonprofit at the time, the Bill of Rights Defense Committee, now known as Defending Rights and Dissent. And I was openly critical of Obama. I lost lots of friends over my, challenge to corporate Democrats around principles that my friends and those corporate Democrats claim to share. I'm reminded of a particular conversation. I used to live with a bunch of classmates of mine who I went to law school with, one of which was an official in one of the federal departments under the Obama administration. And I remember having a heated discussion on our front porch, particularly about drone strikes. And, this person was active in Occupy, but, and I don't mean just casually, they were very active in Occupy. They were a, radical organizer. They were a student activist when we were in law school together at Stanford. They worked on the Obama campaign, particularly because they were outraged by the Bush legacy. And that person was defending Obama's drone strikes because supposedly they were targeted and better than carpet bombing. And, the capacity of a system to brainwash people, the pervasiveness of what I describe as Stockholm syndrome, the phenomenon of people who are ultimately subjugated to sympathize with their captors is profound. It is predictable. And this gets back to, Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail and the observation of comfort and how it relates to complacency. And the one thing we can say about Dr. West, which he's already committed to, is that he's going to fight through not just to the convention, but beyond. He's going to be in the race until the very end. And that in itself is transformatively different from Bernie's strategy. And if you look at their paths before running for the White House, they almost could not be more different. I mean, Bernie Sanders was a senator in Washington for decades before he ran for the presidency, a very thoughtful one, a very independent one, an insightful one. But Cornel West has been a blazing pioneer of a vision that I think has come to inspire, animate, and mobilize more and more Americans. And he's the sort of figure that the closest parallel I could come up with for him in thinking about other countries over the arc of history. Che Guevara comes to mind. and like it's not like we've had a Che Guevara run for the presidency of the United States before. It's almost like truth often surpasses any fiction. And I feel like we're in that moment. We are living in an era when life on Earth is threatened. The climate catastrophe grows worse by the day. Right now, the temperatures across many cities in the Southwest are over 115 degrees. Right. The freshwater scarcity is growing worse and worse. The extreme weather events are growing worse and worse. The threats of the crop supplies are growing worse and worse. Right. And the question is, seriously, do Americans care enough about their kids and their grandkids to show up? Right. Or are they more committed to their bank accounts? And I think people have witnessed what commitments to our bank accounts have gotten us, which is not very much. It's kind of like a shit sandwich. And yeah, you could buy lots of shit sandwiches, or you could actually protect your kids. Right. And, I would take a moment here and get really sharp about this. I am so profoundly disappointed in the legions of parents across this country who have enabled ecocide by supporting corporate Democrats. Or corporate Republicans, for that matter, or the fascist Republicans. I mean, they're all of the ilk. But anyone with kids claims to care about them. I would hope that care extends beyond cuddling them and putting food on the table. If you care about your kids, keep them alive. And it's not that complicated, frankly. It really isn't. It's just a matter of ignorance and complacency versus the uncomfortable reality of us needing to work together across our divisions, across our demographics, to create a viable, sustainable future. And, that's not, frankly, a lot to ask for. I think young people in this country, young people around the world deserve that opportunity. And the only people who can give it to them are voting age Americans. And it's up to us, basically, to either show up or, find our way to the exit. And I do fear that, our way to the exit might resemble the path of lemmings. If we continue on this course.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, I agree with you. It's pretty terrifying to see how willing people are always to look to, like, one margin to the right of Biden. And that's enough for them to say, well, he can never win. Cornel West can never win because third party, and they'll talk themselves, they'll listen to corporate media. But I am hoping that there's a critical mass of young voters, and the rest of us also who aren't so young, but who show up and fight for our future 100%.
I just want to shout out the last commenter who thoughtfully lumped DSA in with the military industrial complex and, the Democratic National Committee, because they all stand in the same bucket. I've watched so much of what passes to be the left in the United States, particularly the dramatic socialites of America, reveal their own corruption. And that's one reason why I'm excited for a voice of moral conscience from the Black community to be in the lead at a time like this, right? Like the corruption of so many institutions is part of the rot that we face. Institutions from the Sunrise Movement to DSA, institutions like many that claim to stand for principles that they won't actually go to bat for, right?
And you see the slew of endorsements, for Biden.
Sorry, I got lost there. Can you say that again?
Yeah, we both are saying the same thing. Sorry, go ahead.
The slew of endorsements that came there, it's a full year before we're voting in the primaries. And
like all the unions.
They've given up all leverage
to endorse Biden so early, right?
But this is what gets down what I'm saying, the rank and file versus the leadership. All of the organized labor unions that have endorsed Biden, every single one of those leaderships have indicated their fealty to Wall Street before their own rank and file. Yeah. And so, part of this question, to make this sharp for people who are in labor unions, is will the rank and file for labor ever stand up? Right. Yeah. And if labor doesn't stand up, we are, and when I say labor, I don't mean organized labor. I mean the rank and file. The rank and file don't force hard choices within their unions. The goose might be cooked, but that's the kind of thing they actually can do. Right. Yeah. If there's a year left. If I watched SEIU get rolled by corporate Democrats, and that's a union representing some of the least wage, most oppressed, most desperate workers in the country. And if the rank and file of SEIU were to rise up against its leadership and force it to actually stand in solidarity with itself, instead of selling its rank and file out at every conceivable opportunity to corporate Democrats and Wall Street, that's the kind of thing that would create some opportunities. And realize some unions have done that, right? The nurses union,
Although they
Who's
just
fighting for
endorsed
medic?
Biden, of course.
Did the nurses union endorse
Yeah.
Biden?
Yes.
That's really
Unbelievable.
disappointing.
It's so
Jesus.
disappointing.
I
But
didn't
I will say
realize
that
that. Thank you for telling me that.
it's
Though.
the saddest, it's horrible. But you know, remember in Nevada when the head of the restaurant workers and so hospitality workers endorsed well, who was it? Not Bernie, but the rank and file came out for Bernie. So
Right.
I do think it's possible, but boy, it just takes, I mean, if anybody can do it, I think Cornel West can. He's had his, feet on the ground with the working class for decades. But you're right. That comfort that liberals enjoy is what always prevents them. When they tell, and we're going to get to, I know you have to go, we're going to get to it a little later, with the whole TYT rant against trans people and how, this isn't the time, but it's never the time because Anna Kasparian wants what she wants. So she's going to tell other marginalized people, like, you can wait for yours. And it's always about that middle class comfort. We have to chip away at that.
Indeed. And the only thing I'd add to your comment is I don't think it's whether Cornel West can do it. The question is, can we do it? It's not up to him. He's been doing everything a single person. He's done much more than a single person can do. One reason I'm very at peace having abandoned my life that I led for 40 years to embrace a new one is because, I did everything one person can do. And frankly, a lot more than a single person can do. And, even if my career was a casualty of the corruption of the political system, I know, and I can sleep at night because I know I did everything I possibly could. And he already has done everything one possibly could. Now he's going beyond that. The question is not about, can he do it? The question is, can we do it? Are we smart enough to recognize our interests? Are we bold enough to act on them? Are we, in fact, a free and brave people? Or is that all just a bunch of hot air? Right? I mean, to say that America is a land of the free and a home of the brave is a joke because it's it's a land of the police and a home of the prison slaves. But if we have the temerity to do what our forebears did and reclaim our agency, I would note, there was a historic speech that Frederick Douglass gave on July 4th in 1852, if I'm not mistaken, and in it he describes the constitutional relationship between citizens and government in terms that are very resonant with this moment. It might take me a minute to find them and look them up. I'll do that while we're talking, but there is a recognition of the relationship between citizen and government that is nowhere present elsewhere in our continuing body politic, except in the voice of Cornel West. That's why I say he has a constitutional valence, because he's not just there as a candidate, right? He's there almost as like a flare, like the kind of flare you shoot up into the night sky to let, someone looking for you know that you're there. That's what he is. He's a flare to let the American people know those words are supposed to mean something, right? When we say that all people are created equal, when we say there's a presumption of innocence, when we say that there are actual rights that we're supposed to stand by, those aren't just words. Somebody actually means them. And by standing up to be that voice, we know he's going to do his role. The question is, will the rest of us see the flare and walk towards it? Or are we going to sit on our hands and do the easy thing and cast the vote for the lesser among evils and watch our children burn?
Well, Shahid, I think he needs you up there on the stage with him because you represent everything that he has to say so beautifully. I really appreciate your voice out there. I am so sorry that, you weren't able to fight against the corporate malfeasance that all conspired against you at that time. But we really appreciate your voice and your intelligence, and your historic knowledge is always so educational whenever we have you on. So thank you. We really appreciate your coming on. It's great to see you.
It's my honor and privilege. Yeah, it's great to see you guys too. And I appreciate your voices too. Keep up the great work. And what I particularly appreciate about your voices is something similar to Dr. West is, this is about punching up. It's about power to the people. It's about not careers, but principles. And I do hope that enough people are inspired, if not by my voice, if not by Cornel West's voice, then by yours. And if I can make this sharp too, everyone with an audience in this country, every artist, every journalist needs to be talking about Dr. West and the paradigm conflict between the corruption that we have in place at the moment and what he represents. And anybody who's not, frankly, is complicit. And I hope that people who are adjacent to those voices we'll bring whatever pressure we can to bear on them. We were talking before about the rank and file pressing union leadership.
Right.
You know, fans of artists should be pressing the artists that they support to be going to the mat and being conscious and being outspoken. You know, people who are athletes with audiences, they can be speaking up. There's so many voices who have audiences, and anybody who is not speaking truth to power is part of the problem. And all of those people have stakeholders. We are all stakeholders for lots of different things beyond just people who we cast votes for. And that's what I see implicated in the kind of discourse that you're cultivating, is the empowerment of people to pick up the mic for themselves. And I do hope that enough people find ways to do that in the next years, such that we can have a different conversation when we have a chance to reconnect again next.
I agree. And yes, we can't wait to have you back. And let's just keep fighting that good fight and punching up. Thank you for coming on, Shahid. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my honor. Take care, y'all. Keep up the great work.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I mean, I have to say, at first I was worried about, I mean, of course, it's an uphill battle. We know they're going to throw everything they can, but I feel hope in a way that I hadn't felt for a while with Cornel West coming into the race. So,
I mean, personally, I think anytime you have somebody gaining a big enough platform and getting enough attention, and the conditions are ripe. I mean, when you have the labor movement leading the efforts to change things, and the labor movement is getting screwed over by its own leadership.
Yeah.
Like Shahid said, like that's the perfect time to take this to the next level. And any spark could actually make that happen. So, he's only going to add to that level. And if he keeps fighting, even after losing and, whatever happens, he could be a true leader that rallies the troops in a way that we haven't seen. So
I think so. I hope so. All right, listen, it's 6 o'clock. We need to bring some alcohol and fun into this. Yeah, have another shot. I'm glad I started with 2 before the show. Are we just going to do it right away?
Yeah, let's just have a shot.
I don't know if anybody is, or if Shahid's still watching. Oh, I didn't even do it, but everybody's saying thank you and what an inspiration you are. So I hope he knows that. Thank you. The runs and where. Cheers. Cheers to Shahid.
All right, let's get this wheel going on.
All right. Yeah.
That video will play forever if I don't stop it.
I was just mixing another cocktail.
I don't know what about editing that video made me think, you know what? Let's just leave it blank for the last 30 seconds.
Give some time to decompress.
I'm doing a second bonus shot.
Oh, good for you. Well, I know. I mean, I made another cocktail. And
I need it.
Something. Yeah.
Might even do a third before we get to the wheel.
That Vicodin is not kicking in the way it was supposed to. Okay, what do we have? Scrotus, Bidenomics, COVID, 2024, Canda hates. Look at that. Social media. We're getting clever. Lots of shots and lots of timeline cleanses. Let's spin the wheel.
All right. Oh, and by the way, our drink.
Oh,
we posted a beautiful picture of a 3-colored drink, and if you mix them, it just turns out purple. There's no way they don't float. I don't know who sold us on that recipe, but it's a total scam. It makes purple drink.
I think you got to do it on the back of a spoon or something, but it's like all those Instagram posts where it's like, this is what it looked like in the recipe online, and then this is what my cake looked like. That's what my drink looked like when I made it. It was just a big slop.
I even tried the spoon. I even put my grenadine in the fridge.
Yeah.
No, it's a scam.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. All right.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, there it is. Is yours lagging the way mine was lagging?
I
Or is yours
don't know.
running?
Was it?
No, I don't know. All right, timeline cleanse.
What do you got?
What do we got? I got to scroll all the way down and see what.
As an artist, you think the great ones, Godfather and Lethal Weapon.
But the question is, why in the world Garfield 3?
Can this be just between us?
Yes.
Drugs cost money.
It's very important stuff there.
That's pretty funny. All right, let's go. We're gonna have to.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. Ooh, when I reach that arm out, it's not good. It's not good. Oh. All right. You doing a shot? You got your shot?
Oh yeah, shot. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
That was a little light.
Between the vodka and my shoulder. Oh. Okay. All right.
A topic.
Just appreciating Kiko weighing in on some of the COVID minimizing stuff. No, we got to spin it again.
Oh, I just spun it off camera.
Oh my God. That's how
Yeah,
that. Okay.
Just keep it up there and let's do it again.
All right. There we go. It was candidates. It's more fun when we see it, or should we just do it?
I'm trying to. It's really important
my
to me. My
goodness.
OCD is going nuts.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God, another one. This is
You
just
don't
all
want us
going
to
to be
do
like
topics.
silly clips today.
Your pick.
All right, it's my pick. I know I'm looking to see what do we have? Let's do Musk fail.
He's gonna save the world. I thought he was whack for a long time until the last couple weeks. Because now he's gonna be the hero we need. Because he's gonna do 2 birds, 1 stone. He's gonna destroy the website Twitter and all of his unearned personal wealth in the same move, and be the hero we kind of need in retrospect. He's like that would be like if the 3rd plane in 9/11 made it to Congress. It would be like that. That would be that move. Where at first you'd be like, "This is pretty bad," and then be like, "Well, maybe." Maybe.
I got banned from Twitter for I didn't put it quite so amusingly, but cannot mention anybody's possible demise. If you want free speech, Elon Musk, to keep you on the platform.
Yeah.
All right, spinning.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
There it is.
Well, this is good also because we didn't get to this last week. We didn't get to talk about 2024 and all of our wonderful candidates. Here is the match that nobody wants. Biden versus Trump. In this latest poll, Trump beats Biden by 40%. I mean, by 40%, by 4%. That's how drunk I am. Wow, I can't stop looking at my red cheeks.
Could be 40.
40, whatever. It's not going to matter. The New Hampshire Democratic primary. This is so weird because Biden's not on the ticket. I think it's too late for him to file, or that he's just decided he's absolutely only doing South Carolina. But anyway, Kennedy and Williamson both at 10%. And then what we showed before that I thought was really interesting is that 1/3 of Democrats say they will not vote for Biden in the primaries, which has got to be an enormous wake-up call for the Democratic Party, who honestly doesn't give a shit.
I mean, it's really quite ridiculous to not hold a primary when poll after poll is coming out showing how much the American people are against Joe Biden. Dementia or not, he's unpopular.
He is unpopular. They are saying that his fundraising anxiety mounts over Biden's early fundraising. 2 people who sent out a flurry of invites for fundraising events in California this week said they received only single-digit responses. And if you remember, it's like the best return on investment ever. Biden had more billionaire donors than any other Democratic candidate. And now they've all, increased their wealth by, what is it, like $900 billion over the past 3 years. But yeah, so here's Biden saying that he wants to have South Carolina first because he's so excited that it's the one state that he won before they coronated him. You're never going to have a Democrat win South Carolina in the general. So this was South Carolina. Trump draws a massive crowd of at least 50,000 people in a small South Carolina town of 3,400. That's the Trump rally. So this is the state that Biden's pressuring the party into rewarding with the first official Democratic primary, giving oversized influence to one of the most right-wing places in the country. I mean, it's absurd. I don't know what they're thinking.
Look, this whole election should be teed up for a Democrat to win with the leader on the right being in, I don't know, he'll be 5 or 6 indictments by the time we get around to it. I mean, and not like vague indictments, like you got him on audio tape waving around, here are my secret documents, I mean, it's so obvious, but it shows how feckless the Democrats are that they're not able to use this against them. Like you should be able to use it against them, but they're hypocrites on every level. And too many people know that at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was the latest. This was from last week when Cornel West first announced that he was running for the Green Party nomination, and already to come out of the gate with 6%. I mean, I think that's pretty formidable. A year and change out from the general, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you looked, if there was polling on name recognition, I got to say West is way down there. So if we change that, I mean, that changes a lot. People don't know who he is now, and he's getting 6%.
Yeah. 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 God, I hope they have a strategy to break through to the corporate media watchers. The crazy thing is that corporate media, corporate news, cable news, whatever, their numbers just keep dwindling. They don't have that many viewers, but somehow they're the ones who show up and bring their friends.
Yeah, but what'll happen is election season rolls around.
Right.
People tune in for the first time. And they're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, well, everyone on TV is saying West is a crazy guy. Or, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that buzz gets out there. So we can counter that buzz, which is what we did with Bernie. They hit Bernie with all that stuff. And we hit them back on social media, which, is not real life, but it is where political discussions start in a lot of sense. And as Shahid was saying, you have to take whatever microphone you have and get this message out to more people. Right. Because we can overcome this stuff. And the next generation kids are so fucked. They know they're fucked. The economy, the housing market, the student loan debt, they know. So, I mean, you could light a fire in these kids and who knows what the hell could happen. Yeah. But we have to counter the mainstream media message as much as we can.
I agree. Do you want to, what should we, I'd love to show the Midwestern Marxist Midwest Marx. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm just going to show it and be quiet 1 second.
Do it.
Many liberals are saying that Dr. Cornel West should not run for president in the 2024 election because he's going to take votes from Biden, therefore helping Donald Trump. And what they fail to realize is that Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton in 2016 shows us that we can't trust neoliberal Democrats to defeat Trump, especially if Trump hammers his populist pro-working class talking points like I'm going to bring jobs back and end the wars. Meanwhile, Biden's trying to send another $70 billion to Ukraine while our infrastructure crumbles at home. And the only way to counter that is with a left-wing candidate like Cornel West, who actually does want to end the wars and bring jobs back. Invest all the money we're using on wars abroad into our own country. And that's why Joe Biden should drop out of the 2024 election and stop stealing votes from Cornel West. The longer that Biden runs, the more he's helping Trump. He should drop out and endorse Cornel West now. And any registered Democrat should leave the party to vote for Cornel West as well. If you don't, you're helping Trump.
I love that. I mean, I just think we have to keep turning that message that they're throwing at us on its head. Right?
Yeah. Whether he can win, maybe he can win, maybe Biden can win, maybe. But that's all these people, that's all our centristy, normie Dem friends care about. Can he beat the guy on the right? And so
Right.
you have to hit them back with the message that he can't beat the guy on the right. He can't.
Yeah. But also, like, I keep, like, even if he does, what does that get any of us? More drilling, more money for cops, more money for the Pentagon and the military industrial complex. Like, I don't even know
Come
what
on.
we get. I do want a hot cup of Joe, though. I love a hot cup of Joe. Oh my God, that's just, I mean, that looks
I
like
wonder,
those Russian
is this in
things
response to the
Facebook.
RFK push-up video?
Oh Lord, that's awful. Yeah, that's awful.
Wait,
There's
who's the
another
math?
one
Oh,
that was
that's Yang and the math guy. I just
yeah,
said,
which he's not
who's
even. I
that?
mean, it's so funny. There's Yang down there, and I think that's AOC to the right,
The
above
Green Lantern.
Kamala. Yeah, and then I mean, I don't know. Does that? I don't think that couldn't work on anybody. I mean, it's just so absurd. But of course, like, we're already getting the people who are, screaming that, there's Brianna Joy Gray saying you absolutely do not have to vote for Biden, even if you live in a swing state. I mean, I actually think it's your duty not to vote for him, especially if you live in a swing state. But then, this is she Gen X or Gen Z? I don't even know. No, Gen Z. Geez. Olivia Juliana, a hot take that might make the lefties mad. This is voter suppression. Making people believe that voting third party or not voting is some form of liberation and freedom from the two-party system is how right-wing extremism has taken hold of states across the country. I mean, that's just factually false. I mean, apart from the fact that that's not voter suppression, it's saying vote for another party. But like, that's it. It is exactly because we always vote for the lesser evil that we now have a Democratic Party leader who is the furthest right Democratic president of my lifetime, because we
And look, the news people all know this. Remember Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC?
That's right.
Before he got deep into MSNBC, there's a video of him saying he's like, I know Democrats. The only way you stop them is to vote against them. That's the only thing they respect is your vote. That's it.
Yep.
You have to not elect them.
That's right. Yeah, they have to be worried about us. Yeah,
but to say that you preserve democracy basically by not believing in a third part, like if you want a third option,
that's voter suppression.
Fascist. That's what these people, they try everything. They throw every argument out there so that somebody latches onto this silly argument and they use it against lefties.
Yeah. That's the whole game. What do you think?
Meanwhile,
are we gonna? Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that Biden is doing that are not even remotely left. Like, he should be right now doing every stupid little thing he can to enact some leftist policy.
Right.
Instead, he's nominating a straight up villain, Mr. Burns villain from the right.
I mean, truly one of the most repellent war criminals that we've had, and that's who he's nominating, and it's for an appointee in public diplomacy. Like, I mean,
just bring Kissinger back.
It's exactly the same. And where's the pushback? I mean, Mehdi Hassan, but like, why aren't people in his own party standing up against this?
Because their corporate donors are happy.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is. I think that yesterday or 2 days ago, it was Julian Assange's birthday. I'm not sure exactly. It is just horrifying to see that in spite of now, I mean, finally there is outcry, even from US journalists a bit, but certainly internationally, that the persecution of Julian Assange should stop. And here's Biden's DOJ, again, doubling down on what Trump did, not Obama. I mean, Obama did not prosecute him or try to prosecute him. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand what the case for Biden is.
Well, the case for Biden is going to be largely abortion, which is ironic because under his presidency, Roe versus Wade was overturned. So you're sending to bat the guy that just struck out 27 times. And you're like, You know what? We got all these batters here who are great at baseball, but the
Right.
guy who struck out 27 times, like, I think we shouldn't even have a
His time.
challenger. Nobody else
It's
should
his
challenge
time
him.
now. The odds have to be in his favor.
It's he's gonna get a win. He's gonna get a win.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to something else, or do you want to talk about?
I think we should move on just because the interview
Yeah.
with Shahid went long.
pretty long.
We got
Yeah.
lots of stuff, and we're not
right.
gonna get to all of it. So.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
They know where our where we are right now, right?
Yeah, they don't even want us talk. The wheel doesn't want us talking politics at all.
I know. Clearly,
Which
know I'm on painkillers and too much alcohol.
I'm not hating them for that. This is how I feel, right?
Why are you doing this?
I don't know why I love this video. I just love this video. Where are we? Where are we? What a song.
Oh, we disappeared.
What a song.
All right, wait. It says that you are on. That's so funny. Remove. Pat, something's going on with StreamYard again. There we go. It said remove when I clicked it. All right, we should spin, right?
Yeah, let's spin the wheel. What do we got?
Yeah, baby.
Oh my god, it just shot and I need to put my alcohol on my left side.
I don't
can do
disagree with the wheel today too much.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to your new kitty.
My future kitty. There you go.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, this is getting ridiculous. We're not going to get to anything. I feel like I want to show Anna Kasparian's rant just for that's not really a timeline claim. All right, you did it. You did a cat. I raise you a dog. Level 2. Level 3. This was much funnier at 3 a.m. when I was watching it. I thought it had audio. Level 6. Here goes level 6. He clears it.
All right.
All right. That's pretty good. Let's see level 7. Come on, smart dog.
All right. Fair enough.
You guys, I gotta say, it is hard to find timeline cleanses when you're when things are so bleak. It's really hard to find them. Lila, take the wheel. That's so funny. I'm reading everybody's. I'm so scared to touch anything on here because I kicked Saul out last time, so I'm just like barely scrolling. Thanks, Mary. It was a good video. All right, let's spin it.
Yeah, baby.
Oh boy. Okay, here we go. The bottle on my left side is really helping because I really just shouldn't move my right arm at all.
There you go.
Oh,
this is all just for your pain.
A cure for carpal tunnel or whatever it is I have. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh.
Delicious.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
Gotta get to the topic. Funny. Curtis. Oh, excellent. Also, something we can blame on Biden for Alito and Clarence Thomas. Clarence. Supreme Court. 60% of Americans approved of the Supreme Court last July. Now it's 38%. I wonder why. Possibly something to do with the extreme corruption at the core of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito flew for free on the private jet of billionaire Paul Singer to his luxury resort in Alaska. Alito later, voted for a ruling that netted Singer's vulture fund $2.4 billion from the government of Argentina. Corruption of the highest order, and nothing happens. They're just there. Nothing's happening.
We're seeing just one after another of these, and there's no accountability. There's literally nothing. I mean, they tried to have a hearing in Congress.
They just said they weren't going to come.
They're like, we don't want to.
Yep. No checks and balances. You know, lifetime appointment.
For years, they sold us on that things will fall apart if the public doesn't trust the integrity of the courts. Like,
right, the institution.
I don't know how they phrase it. Yeah, the institution.
Yeah.
But no, it won't, because we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing anything about this.
Nothing. They're about to block this wealth tax bill. I guess they will preemptively not even hear the case that it could prevent Congress from ever instituting a federal wealth tax, another lucrative gift for conservative justices, billionaire benefactors, and the super rich. So they agreed to hear a case that could preempt. So they will vote that somehow illegal. They'll vote it down, and then you won't be able to have a wealth tax.
They have too much power, and the Democrats, look, they have things they can do. There are steps. You could expand the court. You could try to impeach some of these guys. You could take
anything. Just like use your bully pulpit and start speaking up. Get like rile people up. But Biden doesn't care, and neither does anybody in Congress. Clearly,
just call out, like you said, just call out the corruption. Biden could call a press conference and say the Supreme Court has some holy corruptness going on, and we got to do something about this. Look at this chart. Boom, boom, boom. This guy, the money. But they can't do that because they love, this is what they want. This is what the parties both want.
Because now they can pretend, Biden can pretend that he's gonna, did you see that in the student debt decision, they actually quoted Nancy Pelosi saying that that Biden doesn't have the power for debt forgiveness, which is obviously a total lie. Biden can still cancel student debt, not just up to 20. I know that's the other thing is they keep letting him get away with saying this. Like he could cancel all of it. We know that. This was really disgusting and sad and shows you how little they even care. This was in the New York Times. Death. This is good news, everybody. This is not something that most people would choose as a solution to their debt burden. Still, if you're a young adult wondering about the federal plus loans your relatives took out to pay for your education, you may be wondering whether the debt dies with the person or people who take it on. It does. The federal government will not make a claim on their estate, and you will not inherit the balance. So just pray for your parents to kick it so that the federal loans they took out for your college will not then be passed on to you. I mean, that's where we are. And just a reminder that student debt doesn't exist in most industrialized countries. But here we have it for $2 trillion.
Yeah. Well, where's the... Sorry, I'm looking for the graphic on it. But same thing you were talking about. But the CDC, not the CDC, the Department of Education put out the tweet about suicides.
That's right. Death. Yeah. Where did that go? I know that disappeared. I was looking
for it.
Horrifying. Where did we put that? That might have, I know we got a little,
we got a lot going on in our graphic. We have like 10,000 graphics open there. And we're not going to get there.
All right. Yeah. But they did say the Department of Education is a little concerned that people know that they're about to have to restart paying their student loans and interest with money that nobody has. And so they basically put out like a suicide hotline.
And there was an article
to deal with it.
There was an article, and all this messaging came at once too. I think it was a New York Times article that had like 6 ways to deal with your student loans, and one of them was listed as death.
Yeah, that's the one that we just showed.
I wasn't listening. I was looking for my graphic. I wanted my graphic.
I know yeah, that's when we always say we need a producer. Okay, they just ended affirmative action. they struck it down, except, and this is the most disgusting giveaway, except when it comes to military academies. Then you are allowed to look to Black and brown people and advance them more than, and use affirmative action to try to get them into your ranks. Only for an early death or to wage war on other countries.
That's so transparent, the motives when they do that. Like,
yeah.
How do they justify that? There is no justification.
I mean, it's jaw-dropping. It is so shocking that they just say it outright like that. Truly grotesque. It does look like, and I don't know what's going to happen, but the website, the wedding website case that just came before, which was actually presented, I guess, by Josh Hawley's wife, but they have just found out that the person that she named as the customer who wanted this website designer to create the website. Yeah, but he hadn't even done it. He said he's been married to his wife for 15 years. He's not gay. He never tried to consult with her to create a web design for a wedding. So I mean, I don't know. Will she be sanctioned? What does that even mean? If she's sanctioned, what happens to the law that they just decided that you can discriminate again? I mean, what happens? A censure. A strongly worded letter might be thrown her way.
It's absurd that the case made it to the Supreme Court. It shows that clearly they had an agenda. Clearly they knew that this was brought by Josh Hawley. Clearly they didn't bring and question the parties involved.
Right.
This was just a streamlined way to pass some anti-gay legislation.
Right.
That's it. I mean, look, the way the Supreme Court works, basically, if they don't hear a case, then effectively the law as it is upheld. So you're voted. It's like voting to not change the law,
right?
Essentially, and that's how a lot of important cases get. Like what happens is on a lower state level, there'll be a ruling on a case that is different than the existing statutes, and but because of that becomes the norm and how things are done. So they should have just let this stand. They should have forced them.
Yeah, they shouldn't even heard the case. Yeah,
they shouldn't have heard it, and then we wouldn't be having this.
Right.
There were no damages in the case. Is basically what it is. Like you can't even sue someone in court without damages for most situations because you have to prove somebody paid a price that was
for your actions
so worthy
that
they're going to take up everyone's time to rectify the situation. And if nobody was really harmed by the thing, the court doesn't want anything to fucking do with it. And this thing makes it to the Supreme Court.
And based on the premise that this guy came to her for a web design, the guy never came to her for a web design. He's not gay. And I think at the time she claims the way it was written up, it was supposed to be in 2016. She hadn't even opened up her web design business at that point. So it's like one false premise after another, but there's our court. Yeah. All right. It's 6:30. We didn't even get to so much stuff. Do we have time for a couple more? Do you want to stay on this? What do you want to do?
Let's do one more and we'll just fly through it. What do you think?
All right. Yeah. And I don't know about expanding the court, but I think at least to threaten to do that or something. Just do something. Something. Yeah.
Even if you can't do anything, you have to fight. There's no fight.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that does sort of help us as progressive leftists. It's so clear they're not trying to fight, and everyone is seeing this. And these vote blue no matter who people are like, yeah, this is why we don't want Biden. He's not fighting. And they're not missing that. They miss the connection to, well, he's not fighting on purpose.
Right.
It doesn't matter, but they're getting they're just like, well, he's terrible. If you put it,
We're weak, we're feckless, but they don't understand.
Gavin Newsom would fight because Gavin Newsom is running ads in Florida. And he's not even doing it to advance his political career. Yeah, that's the whole point, you fucking idiots.
Yeah. No, they're fighting. Democrats fight incredibly hard. They're just not fighting for us. They're fighting for their donors.
Amen.
All right. One more.
What do we got? It's going to be shot.
Yeah, baby.
Or now. You know it.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
Do we even have timeline cleanses? We were pretty weak on timeline cleanses.
I know we really, really were. We have what's this?
Внимание, это Ширинов.
Democrats. Easy election. You got it. You got it.
Бог ты мой! Боже ты мой! Поймайте этот неопознанный летающий объект! Ширинов! Уже заходя! Ворота с мячом! В матче против своей бывшей...
Just teeing it up. It's the easiest election. It's a slam dunk against Trump. The slam dunk. Who was it? Was it Ron Klain who looked at when Macron won in France last year, re-election, and he was like at a 33% approval rating, but then he won, and Ron Klain was like, "See, Joe Biden can do that. Like that's the path to victory. Just hope that everybody else is slightly less popular."
And look, I'm not lobbying for Democrats to put someone forward who can win, but like our centrist normie Democratic friends need to know that Biden is the worst of all possible people to put forward. And if once they get that piece of knowledge, then maybe they understand, well, why are they still putting him forward? Right. Why are they still forcing him on? Because he's doing all these corporate things and nobody's paying attention. That's why. Yeah. And they don't care if they lose. That's the other piece. They don't really care if they lose.
You know, that thing that John Favreau, I think, was it John Favreau last week, that clip that we showed from the Pod Safe Boys, where he's like blaming voters for not voting for Biden a year and a half out, instead of using his massive microphone and audience to say, like, call your congresspeople, call your senators, tell Biden, insist that he enact Medicare for all, that he cancel all student debt, that he, anything, but they will never do that because that's not actually, they really don't care. That's not what they want. They absolutely, they actively don't want any of those policies to come to fruition.
No. I mean, they're Obama boys. That's the whole point. They were Obama staffers, and that's why they were given this huge platform that they didn't earn at all. They were just given it. And overnight had all this, 1 million followers from nowhere.
Yeah.
But they could use that platform to say, hey, look, it's a year and a half out. Maybe, at the end, we're going to vote for Biden, but we want him to win. So he needs to be out there pushing hard for these 3 things, or,
that are wildly popular for everybody. Yeah.
And so we should all rally and force them to like these 3 things, or, something, not like a year and a half out saying, look, the people aren't going to vote for him, or you're the fucking idiots. You're the problem.
Yeah. It's your fault Trump wins. Not the most powerful person in the world. There's nothing he could possibly do.
He's literally president right now. He could do something.
Yeah.
Something.
All right. Are we doing one more?
Oh, yeah,
one?
we are. All right.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
Let's keep it light. Keep it light and end it.
So it was kind of a crazy Twitter week, right? First, you got that limit to address extreme levels of data scraping and system manipulation. We've applied the following temporary limits. Verified accounts are limited to reading 6,000 posts a day, unverified 600 posts a day, and new unverified 300 a day. But then it turned out that his cloud storage for all of the
he pays Google a $1 billion for or something.
He was late on his payment or wanted to stave it off or something. But then also I do think that, this, a lot of people are saying, but I tend to agree with it, that he bought it to kill it. Tallulah Riley urged ex-husband Elon Musk to buy Twitter, then delete it, and promised to join him in the fight against wokeism, leaked texts revealed. She texted her ex in April after learning of his plans to buy Twitter. She begged him to go ahead with the sale and then delete it. She complained that social media was a scourge on modern life. She said she'd do anything to help him fight wokeism, and said America has gone insane. The pair met in 2008, were engaged 10 days later. They were married, then divorced, and later remarried before splitting in 2016. Remarried later. I don't know. I think that could be it. I think anybody who thinks that he's working against the system is severely deluded. He makes billions of dollars from this system, and what they really want to do is shut down all of our voices.
That's the tricky part. I don't really think he did it to ruin Twitter. I honestly don't. I just think he's that fucking dumb.
Yeah.
It's the arrogance. I mean, everything he's done, look, maybe as a consequence, taking this bold risk, and he's only taking that bold risk because he doesn't care about Twitter. Maybe that's why he's so laissez-faire with how he acts on Twitter and how bold he is. This is a hot take, Kiko. But I just think he's a fucking idiot. I mean, look at his history. Everything he's done. He got all his money from his dad, who was a diamond baron.
Yeah.
I mean, he's caught in blatant lies about all this stuff. He's like, oh, I worked for my money, blah, blah, blah. My dad wasn't a diamond baron.
And then his dad even corrected him. He's like, no, I have diamond mines. Like, yeah.
I made all our money's from diamond mines. And then he's this super genius who created Tesla. Well, Tesla existed, and he came in. And then he got some money from the government by lying about his background and credit. And I mean, everything is a lie with him. Like, he has not successfully done jack shit.
Yeah.
He's failed up.
Yeah. I mean, that he's done successfully, I guess, is amass ridiculous amounts of money. I think that this is a positive. This was a Missouri judge, I think. A judge limited Biden administration officials from contacting social media sites, a ruling that could curtail efforts to fight disinformation. Hilarious.
That framing there is so ridiculous.
Imagine that. Yeah. Like the New York Times, who helped sell the lie to get us into Iraq in the first place. They should just never talk about disinformation again. The order came in a lawsuit filed by the attorneys general of Missouri and Louisiana, who claim the administration is trying to silence its critics. And I mean, it's 100%, right? I'm silenced. I'm a critic. But yeah, no, I mean, this idea that we have to shut down people who disagree with us and ban them, and you can't ask any questions, and more of the things that they tried to shut people down about, whether it's the lab leak theory or vaccinations being, stopping you from contracting the virus or spreading it. I'm vaccinated, but like that was the only thing, right? Like we keep getting our show blacked out if we talk about how it's important to have the Swiss cheese model and to test and treat and mask and socially isolate, all that kind of stuff. I think if you are not able to fight bad ideas with your own good ideas, then your good ideas probably aren't worth that much. And this idea that liberals seem to be all in for of shutting down any kind of dissent is, I think, terrifying.
And I think it's a good precedent to say that the White House and I think the DOJ, right, should have no business contacting social media and saying, we want these things off your site. Twitter files, for all the good and bad and all the drama behind them, did reveal that both parties try to work with social media to control the narrative.
And it's not just the DOJ, it's the FBI, the CIA. I mean, it's like they have so many different like surveillance and, spy agencies who are combing through, flagging people's posts. I mean, this is what we're like. I thought we're spreading freedom. I mean, we joke about how, Ukraine, like they don't have elections now. They banned opposition parties. They banned the Russian language. And then we're talking about how like they're a democracy that we're fighting for. But like it's happening right here between our police state and the lack of ability to speak your mind, to protest. So,
the White House contacts them and says, you know what? We don't want any anti-cop city stuff on TV. Right. Because that's really important stuff to them. They, so what happens when they do that?
Yeah.
Which they probably have, because it's perfectly legal for them to do that.
I mean, they labeled people who are climate activists and anti-capitalist,
domestic terrorists.
extreme domestic violent extremists. All right. I feel like this show, yeah, I know. They did find cocaine in the White House, and there's a part of me that's like, who cares? Except that, of course, Republicans are going to bring it up. But the biggest issue is the fact that if Hunter Biden were Black and not the son of, at the time of the crime bill being passed, he would be rotting in jail right now. Because people who had way less, like marijuana, were in jail for decades. I mean, it's just such
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. She's more responsible for locking people up in California than anyone. She endorsed all these 3 strikes laws. And then she has the gall to be joking about it and laughing about how much she likes smoking weed on a bunch of different shows. She's done it.
I know. And then she listed people, like, they were like, really? Who'd you listen to in college? Who were your people? And she like listed people who were definitely post her college. Yeah. Like, yeah. It is so massively depressing to see what they are all getting away with. And the hope that I think we're all finding is seeing the militancy of the working class and labor unions coming together. And I have to say, I am very excited about the candidacy of Cornel West. I really hope that he is able to get airtime with enough people. And I know that Shahid was, saying it's on all of us. And of course it is. And yet we know how the structure works in this country. Just really, really hope he gets his vision heard.
Second that entirely. I think the optimism for his campaign lies in the messaging. Look, could they win? God knows. It's possible if we get enough people angry and aware, and people do the footwork to get them on the ballot in all these states, which we'll have to get updates as things progress in that area. But regardless, I do think someone that sticks with the message that Bernie had, maybe even left of Bernie, throughout, and doesn't drop it, and then after whoever wins, sticks with that and gains support. Like West right now has a lot of support among actual protesters and leftists like us. But if he's elevated on a national stage more, that audience can grow more, and that helps us.
Yeah.
So
something
to be happy for.
Cheers to Cornel West and the Green Party. Let's keep that energy going. Thank you to Shahid Buttar for coming on the show. We didn't even ask him where we could find him, but I know he does have a Substack and lots of great articles, both that he writes and narrates. So check it out if you get a chance. Thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Love you guys. Keep punching up. We'll see you next week.